Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Development Committee for March the 5th. And on that cue, if I could ask everybody to put their cellular devices on an inaudible mode, please, for the duration of the meeting tonight, that would be appreciated. Before we have approval of the agenda, there are a few changes. Members of committee, they are there before you. Item 5.2 is a copy of the presentation for Beth Hall Penny. It is here. It's been distributed, so you'll have a copy of it before you. We have an added delegation 5.3 from Mike Everard, the principal of Augusta National, read the Heritage Heights Secondary Plan City Staff Report Recommendations. There are two added items of correspondence. 13.5 is a memorandum from the City Clerk's Office dated today. Read the Committee of Council Recommendations CW 075 2018 on the GTA West Corridor. And the other item is 13.6. It's correspondence from Scott Snyder dated today. It is not before you. We'll add it to the agenda today, and the Clerk's Office will distribute it following approval of the agenda. And I believe those are the only changes, unless members of committee have any changes. Would someone like to move approval? Councillor Willens, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. The consent agenda has 4 items listed in it. Is everybody? Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Should 7.1 be pulled out of consent because there's delegation on?
That's probably a good idea. Thank you. Consent agenda has been moved by Councillor Miles. All those in favor? That's carried. We move down now to the statutory public meeting reports. This is a public meeting of the Planning and Development Committee held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act of Ontario. The proposals heard at this public meeting are as a result of applications made to the City under the Planning Act. These are not proposals of the City of Brampton unless they are specifically identified as City-initiated proposals, as they are this evening. The intent of this public meeting is to hear submissions from the public. Members of committee may ask for clarification but will not engage in any of the discussion. The first item on the statutory public meeting is a report from Claudia LaRota, Policy Planner. It's a City-initiated draft official plan amendments to implement the new Fletcher's Meadows Secondary Plan, the Snellgrove Heart Lake Secondary Plan, Springdale Secondary Plan, Brampton Flowertown Secondary Plan, and Bramalea Secondary Plan. Is anybody in attendance this evening that wishes to see a presentation on that? I'll ask one more time. Seeing none, we'll adjourn that item for this evening. The second item is 4.2. It's a report from Claudia LaRocca, Policy Planner, City-initiated draft official plan amendments to implement the new Airport Intermodal Secondary Plan and Highway 410 and Steel Secondary Plan, Wards 3, 7, and 8. Is anybody in attendance that wishes to see a presentation on that this evening? Seeing no hands in the air, we'll adjourn that one as well and move down to delegations. With committee's indulgence, item 5.1 and 5.3 are both on Heritage Heights Secondary Plan Report 7.1, so I'd like to suggest that we reorder the delegations and have 5.2, the delegation from Beth Hall Penny, so that the two Heritage Heights are together. Moved by Councillor Miles. All in favor? That's carried. So Beth Hall Penny, you are on deck. Welcome.
There's a presentation here, and I'll try to run through it quickly because there has been some headway made in the last few days since we requested this delegation.
We do have a copy of it, Beth.
Yes.
It's up.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, members of committee, I'm here today on two related matters. One is with respect to the reconstruction of Mayfield Road, which is ongoing today in front of Block 48-2 in the Countryside Villages block plan area. The capital project expands from Airport Road to Bramalea Road. And the related matter is a particular plan of subdivision in which I'm involved with, Cedar City Greenvale Maytor Inc. I'll call it Maytor, just to make it simple. And that subdivision is on the southwest corner of Torbram and Mayfield. Location plan shows where it is, the north end of the city of Brampton. And so there's, what we're trying to achieve here and requesting support from Brampton is we entered into some discussions with the Region of Peel about a year ago now with respect to the particular plan of subdivision, because we're proposing within our plan some minor modifications to two intersections with Mayfield Road. And when we had those preliminary consultations with the region, we were made aware that the region was actually moving very forward towards issuing the tender on that project. They were to issue that tender in April of last year. And they had indicated to us that their plan, as they moved forward with the design, which at that point was the 90% completion mark, they said if you could get support from the city on two minor adjustments to the intersections that we proposed within our plan, that they would actually amend their design and reissue the tender for this contract. So in a similar fashion, Region of Peel, as does City of Brampton, would have proceeded to install the roadworks for the 6th intersection along this block plan interface. So I'm going to show you a copy of the plan, but a little bit of background first. This area has been planned for development in the secondary plan for the City of Brampton since 2006. Block plan process went through a public process and was approved by council in April of 2016. And through those public processes, two intersections were determined with Mayfield through the secondary plan, and the remaining intersections were determined through the block plan process. This is the copy of the block plan that council approved. Hard to tell, but there are 6 intersections with Mayfield Road in this interface. So when we met with the region and discovered that these works were in the design and underway, they said that let's work quickly to get an answer, and we was, let's say, amend the design. And the above ground work, so I just wanted to point out, Mayfield Road reconstruction is for the full 6 lanes of traffic with a divided median and a multi-use trail. So the regional contract includes all the above ground works, all the below ground works, and they were, as I say, planning on proceeding with the road stubs. And the reason we were suggesting some minor changes is through the detailed planning stages, where we were at, there is an ability to refine these locations through the draft plans of submission and through pre-consultation with the City of Brampton. And we were requesting some we were proposing some internal adjustments to the roads which slightly modified the locations of these intersections with Mayfield. This is the plan that we went through a pre-consultation process with. And as you'll see, there are two intersections. It's not working. 2 intersections with Mayfield. The one on the left is a collector road, and the one on the right is a local road connector. So having discovered that they were so far along in the process, we found out that they actually had relocated the hydro poles. And so we went immediately and surveyed the hydro poles so that we could actually do the detailed design of these intersections to make sure that before the region did issue the tender, that they were in a location that makes sense. And just so you understand, the types of shifts that we were talking about of these 2 intersections were 45 meters in the case of the collector road and 30 in the case of the other road. So they were marginal shifts that we were proposing. They were shifts that are deemed appropriate through, as I say, the detailed planning process. So those are the 2 intersections. I'll just show the red underlying fabric or overlaying fabric is the block plan as it was approved, and the colored plan is are the intersection locations as we are proposing through our subdivision plan. We went through an extensive amount of detail with the region. We did the functional detailed design plan for the intersections. We did a traffic impact study well beyond when we normally would have done through the draft plan stage. We were doing this at pre-consultation because we wanted to move forward. And one of the reasons we wanted to move forward is because the region had encouraged us that if we acted quickly, they could amend the design. But the most important thing of that is it avoided the issuance of a change order down the road, which is very costly. This is a capital road project, and we didn't want to see the capital roads costs increasing. But the disturbance that would happen down the road, if our contractors to come in about 2 years after the region has reconstructed this road, there are implications involved with that, of course. So we were trying to work through a process with the Region of Peel to proceed and amend those drawings. We actually went, as I say, and surveyed the hydro poles in the field. We incorporated that in design. These are just some drawings that we had done for the intersection details. This is the Collector Road intersection with Mayfield. This is the local road intersection. And we got sign-off from the utilities in terms of absence of conflict. The region supported us. We were moving forward. And then at the 99th hour, the city removed all 6 intersections from the tender from the design prior to tendering, which was unfortunate given all the efforts that we had made to avoid this process of a change order down the road. So we then went and started our pre-consultation process with the Brampton, having had our discussions with the region, having the region supporting what we were proposing in terms of a shift of these intersections. They met the control access bylaw. We had all the technical support for those intersections. And despite...
Beth, can I ask you just to take a bit of a breather? You've extended the 5 minute.
Oh.
Would someone like to move? Councillor Fortini, extend the time. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Moore. So through the pre-consultation process, which we then initiated with the city, we determined the city was in the end happy with product, happy with the land use distribution, happy with the intersection locations from a traffic perspective. But despite that we had asked for an expedited response of staff to support just the 2 intersections through our pre-consultation process, we didn't get an answer. So the region, as I say, the region then decided that they would remove all intersections from the tender. And perhaps the reason is, and granted so, that we were in a pre-consultation plan. Our draft plan had not been to a public meeting. It had not been fully vetted through the process. But appreciate we're just making a couple of modifications to the drawings. We are now in the subdivision stage. The complete application was submitted and filed. We've received all but one comment from TRCA, but everything else has come in and is supportive of now the intersections. We've got a public meeting scheduled for April 9th. This is the plan. And through, again, the formal draft plan circulation process, Region has reaffirmed that they're confirmed with the locations. Hydro is satisfied, no conflict. And we now have answers now. I think we've made some headway in the last few days that the City of Brampton has said that there are no comments received through the circulation of the draft plan that have any impact on these intersection locations. So what I'm asking is we have an opportunity here to have these intersections installed while the region is still out there doing this work. They have been under construction since July. They are advancing very quickly. We discovered, despite that we were told by the region that we had till the end of this year to modify the design, that they actually have poured curbs on the south side of the road. But we think we are better off if we can get support from the City of Brampton with a request to the region to reincorporate these back into the design, not unlike what the City of Brampton has done for Torbram Road. And on Torbram Road, it was entirely reconstructed in 2016 with no draft plans having been filed. No public meetings haven't been held on draft plans. So it's okay for the city, but it wasn't okay for the region. So what we're asking is that we can get some support, because if we don't move forward, we have some issues as it relates to disruption to traffic, and nobody wants to disrupt traffic on a 6-lane road. So the request is threefold. If we could get the City of Brampton support, and I think we have now that from conversations with Alan on Friday, that there is no comment received that impacts those intersections. So we would like to get some support from the city, communication to the region, And with a request that we not only just install, the region not only install the 2 intersections, that they install all 6. And if it's approval or endorsement in a formal fashion, since we have all the comments in and we have a public meeting on April 9th, perhaps there's no reason why a recommendation report cannot be brought forward before this council recesses. And then council is dealing with the plan for a block plan that they actually endorsed within this term of council. So those are my requests. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sprovieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Beth, for the presentation. Normally, our procedure is that we would ask for staff to bring a report back, and although given the urgency to really move this forward, and I understand the predicament that we're in with the Mayfield Road, and I'd just like to, Madam Chair, ask staff if these requests can be accommodated or not.
So through you, Madam Chair, the request, Councillor Sprovieri, is really one that relates to a regional infrastructure project, and being the creation of the curbing and some other infrastructure along Highway Mayfield. To date, understanding the pursuit of a landowner here for the works to be really front-ended in a particular way with curbing, the city staff has been in correspondence with the region of Peel on the item that really is an item for them to decide on. City staff has been providing through to them really a status updates with respect to this development application, the plan of subdivision and rezoning application that is with us, informing them of the status that we've had at various points along the way at the pre-consult through to really where we are now with first round comments having come back from the various internal city divisions and external agencies on really the first iteration of the plan from Ms. Hall-Penny's ownership group. We've informed the Region of Peel staff that just recently that the comments that are now just recently provided through to us, and it's really not entirely complete even at this point in time, and also the public meeting again hasn't been held either. We have though informed the region staff that there are no indications at this point in time that any of the comments would necessitate a shift in the access or relocation thereof. And really we provide that through to the region staff for them to make an informed decision on this request that is with them. So really at this point in time, the city's planning staff really doesn't have a particular, I guess, proposal or really or being a suggestion as far as whether it's appropriate at this point in time or not, if for them to decide on whether they'd like to accommodate the requested infrastructure construction. But we've left it at really the status updates through to the region staff.
Well, through the chair, that really isn't that. Now, I understand that staff has already reviewed these plans. Traffic has reviewed them. We don't see a problem with the slight shifting of the road. I did look at the plans. There was one situation where the original plans, there was a lot of wasted land and along the corridor. There's a valley corridor, and so now they've realigned it so those lands can be utilized and not be wasted. And to me, that makes good sense. You don't want to have some good land just go to waste. So from what I understanding is that the region wants something from the city saying that we're okay with the plan, so they can move ahead and do the road work based on the revised plan. So is staff able to give the region that go ahead?
Councillor Sprovieri, I've just been reminded by the clerk that the procedural bylaw when we have a delegation is in the absence of a staff report is that we refer it back.
Well, but the urgency is...
I understand.
Yeah.
So the process is that I need a motion to waive the procedural bylaw in order to allow for questions.
Sure.
Councillor Palashi moves suspending the procedural bylaw. Well, I need 2/3 majority to suspend the procedural bylaw. All those in favor? That's carried.
Okay.
Answer away.
Thank you. So again, let's, going back, is there a problem with, I think the region wants something in writing from staff saying that we're okay with this revised, and so they can go ahead and do their design, and with the road work, it's probably gonna be starting soon. I see already, contractors are out there, working, so.
So through you, Madam Chair, city planning staff haven't been asked for any particular position on that matter. Rather, really in the number of discussions we've had with regional staff about this very issue, really it's been left at really regional staff asking for confirmation on where the status of the application lies. And so further to them not having asked us for a pointed position on the matter, what I understand generally is that it was just on a Friday of last week where communication was provided from the region staff copied to the city staff, but through to Ms. Beth Hall-Penny on this matter. And it's identified by the region staff that there are some concerns relating to the construction of those access points at this point in time still. So it's a matter that the region continues to look at. I've recently put some communication back through to the landowner on identifying some concerns with this matter.
Well, through the chair, I just heard the delegation say that the region say they're okay with it. That's what we were just told by the delegation. So are we getting two different messages here?
So we have provided all of the detailed functional design plans that the region requested actually last March that don't just look at the right-of-way width, it looks at lane widths, taper lengths, curb radii, all of the above-ground work that is needed to solidify these intersection locations. And they've looked at that. The communication that Alan Parsons is referring to alludes that there may be some utility conflicts. Well, we have the sign-off from Electra Utilities twice now, through the pre-consultation and through the formal response on the draft plan circulation, to say they have no issue, we meet all the required offsets, minimum offsets from the new infrastructure. And that was a key element, because when we discovered that this work was so far advanced, we thought, oh, hydro poles are in, that's a big deal, and we don't want to have to pay to relocate hydro poles. So we tweaked the plan, made sure we met those requirements. So we've done that detail. But the technical detail that was alluded to in this letter infers that there are other utility conflicts. Well, there is no there is no cable on the south side of Mayfield Road. And if there were, it wouldn't be a big issue anyways. And to the best of my knowledge, there is no gas main on the south side of Mayfield Road, which would have been an issue. And the other thing I've pointed out is that there are no servicing infrastructure obligations at these intersections per se. You notice there's a walkway connection that comes up. I can get this to work. Where is it? There's a walkway connection to Mayfield Road just west of the valley, and that's where the infrastructure stubs go out to Mayfield Road. We're only required to build them to the south limit of the road, and that's for future development. It's someday 20, 50 years down the road when Caledon does proceed, if it does proceed ever, for developing lands in Caledon north of this site. So there are no infrastructure conflicts that exist. The other things that have been raised, which I thought were quite interesting, is that the recent email was that there be potential risks if the region install the road stubs, safety risks, for instance. But it has been the region's practice all along. In fact, west of here, west of Bramalea Road, 3 intersection stubs are in, and those site works are not underway today. They may have been through the approval process recently, but that road was constructed some time ago. So the region has always proceeded to put in these intersection stubs, just like the city has on Torbram Road. And so another concern was potential dumping, because this was on a regional interface. Well, I don't know how you deal with that, other than you deal with it if it happens, but that was a risk that was identified by the region. And the need to line paint, if they need to line paint every 9 months, we'd be happy to do that. We can address those issues through the region, but we don't want to be ripping up this regional road at about the time it's just completed, because it's interrupting traffic. There's a full median, and there'll be 2 breaks in the median for turning movements into this project, and we just don't want to be in that position, because no matter whether it's our contractor, it's going to be perceived if it's a regional contractor. It's just a waste of taxpayer dollars. Why did you spend millions of dollars reconstructing a road, and then not long after, rip it up?
And thank you for that, and I understand your concern because we hear about it all the time. You know, it used to be even worse at one time when the city used to pave a road and the region come along and dig it up to put a water main or a sewer replacement like a year or 2 after. And we remember those years. So we've learned and we've tried to coordinate and so just a question to staff now. What must we do to move this along? Do you need a resolution from council to direct you to move it along, or what do we need? We want this to move along. We don't want bad public reaction on this issue.
Through the chair, if I may, my preference would be I'm happy to write to the region at the staff level to say that from a planning perspective, we're comfortable with the locations. However, I will continue to respect the concerns that they've raised from a safety perspective, a grading perspective. It's really their business. So I would be hard pressed to want to direct them how to do their business. I understand the curbs are in now. So I would be more comfortable just to advise them that we think that there's little risk of the relocation, and the decision about the timing of this should really be something between the applicant and the region themselves.
Are you okay with that, Beth?
Some communication of support, yes, and if the region is looking for greater endorsement through council support, I mean, as I say, I don't think there's any reason why a recommendation report couldn't be brought forward in a number of months' time. Our fear with leaving it beyond that point is I think there won't be any decisions made by this council in respect of a recommendation report, that's all, not a draft plan approval, because the draft approval will rest with the commissioner as we work through some other details internally for the plan. But a recommendation report would certainly give some more substantive support to those locations.
So you would like staff to bring a recommendation report before the summer, before we break for the summer and then break for the elections?
I think there's 2 meetings in June, and then there may not be planning meetings until January. I'm looking to the chair.
So question to staff, can we look at trying doing that?
Well,
Through you,
it
Madam
goes to
Chair?
public meeting in April.
Right.
I guess from the public meeting, staff will have a better sense of the timing on that.
That's right, Madam Chair. So there are, at this point in time, while we do know the various issues that are provided by way of the first round of studies and the plan, there will need to be a revised submission through to us to identify the various items that we've put through to the applicants. We will be hearing from the public for the first time. At this point in time, it's very difficult for staff to really understand and anticipate what those issues would be and to speak to really timing of a very fulsome recommendation report.
So if it's a clean application, the chances are better that they can get processed then. That's fine, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Councillor Miles.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Halpany, if you could just clarify for me. So, the Region of Peel had indicated that they were going ahead and that it would be advantageous to adjust the intersection designs at the design phase now rather than in the future.
Through you, Madam Chair, through Councillor Miles, yes, they did ask us to provide a higher level of detail than obviously just a pre-consultation plan. They asked for functional design plans. They asked for a traffic impact study before we even filed a complete draft plan application. So we had all those answers. We knew that it met their access control bylaw. And they had said to us, we would like to be able to put these in because they realized they were being proactive about that, but they didn't want to have the increased capital cost, They didn't want the exposure potentially of a change order down the road that might hugely increase the capital project. As we know, contractors do take advantage of change orders as they come down the road. And so they had asked for a support from Brampton. So they had made an ask, for sure, which we tried to obtain through the pre-consultation process, and we didn't get that. But one thing they have done.
Can I just clarify that? So the pre-consultation process is a meeting that you had with both city and regional staff?
I initiated the pre-consultation process with the region because we were proposing a change to 2 intersections with the regional road, and I knew I needed to have that support before even embarking on the city pre-consultation process, because that was a fundamental adjustment, minor, but it was an adjustment, so I wanted the region's support. And in the end, when we were told that the region had no position, the conclusion of our pre-consultation process, there was no response on the intersection location. We did ask for a response and were told we would get one, but we didn't. So the region was very insightful. They actually arranged for a unit price contract so that they wouldn't be exposed to a change order down the road. The project manager at the time, who unfortunately has left Brampton at the end of, or left Peel at the end of July, but he said this allows us to simply amend the design drawings to bring all 6 intersections back in, modify the 2 related to this project, and just issue the design drawings to the contractor. It was going to be as simple as that. And then they were asked or encouraged, I'm not sure exactly, I'm not in those room conversations, but suddenly the region removed all of them from the tender.
So through you, Madam Chair, to staff, do you know why they would all be removed? Was that on our request?
Through you, Madam Chair. So no, it was not through city staff's request. Rather, what staff understands solely is that region staff, in communicating through to city planning staff, had been inquiring about the potential for those intersection locations to change. And we would have had then banter with them about that in particular, and where we are with the status of the pre-consult application at that time, some of the issues that we are really identifying and putting through to the landowner here through that pre-consultation response letter. Thereafter, again, we were speaking with them about just the status of the full application then that was submitted to us, and the issues that were associated with that application, and the status of the application being we're still collecting comments from each of the divisions and external agencies. We have not gone through to a public meeting at that point in time, and still at this point in time. So it was only those communications to Madam Chair.
But did you indicate that you thought it was premature for us to comment on the intersections?
So through you, Madam Chair, the issues that we would have been identifying through to the region just generally is that we do have to look at a number of matters, such as the urban design that's proposed with the application and the lot mix. And every time you really look to or just have to change the lotting pattern within a subdivision, the types of lots, the types of dwelling units, whether it's a single detached unit that might have to be or that is proposed for a particular location of the plan, potential change from that lot type through to a different lot type of a semi or a townhouse. All of those changes that are being contemplated with urban design and discussed with the applicant, they have the potential for shifting in some way the blocks and then the intersections as well. There were various transportation technical issues that we were hearing from staff as well with respect to the standard designs that we need to achieve for roadway widths and such, and so some changes needed on those items. All those items do have some potential for shifting and having a ripple effect through a plan of subdivision and impacting the locations of the intersections as well. So it would have been those things in particular just generally communicated.
Okay, so basically the comments that the City of Brampton staff made was probably the reason why the Region of Peel withdrew the 6 intersections from the design plans. However, since that time, you have circulated the application and you have come to some kind of consensus that nobody has indicated any problem with the design of those intersections.
So through you, Madam Chair, that is correct from staff standpoint and from some external agencies. We haven't received comment yet from the Toronto Region
Yep.
Conservation Authority. We have just received some comments from the Region of Peel a couple of days ago. We have not gone to the public meeting to hear from the public just yet as well. And together with this, as Ms. Halpenny had referenced, the Region of Peel staff, engineering staff had identified a number of concerns with just the request generally, really from in some fundamental ways.
You talking about the, through Ms. Madam Chair,
So,
can I-
you know what, I'm listening and trying to come to some conclusion on this. I mean, common sense to me would say that if there is a way that we can move the road design forward so that we're not going to disrupt traffic in the very near future, that we as a municipality who is working in partnership with the Region of Peel should be trying to facilitate that. And I'm hearing also from you that at this point in time that you've circulated the application and you don't feel that there's an issue. If the region has some questions that they need to resolve, they can do that with the applicant because you've indicated that it's up to the region, correct? Okay, so, John, I know this is, Councillor Sprovier, this is your area. I would be happy to support a motion by you that, from council, that we feel that it is, I don't know about the wording, but we believe, we don't want to see a disruption in traffic 2 years down the road. And if the region's schedule is such that they're moving forward with the design of Mayfield Road, then the city of Brampton should be doing everything in its power to ensure that it's not going to be a disruption to traffic in the future. So I think we need to say that, and we need to say it now purely because of the timing. So it's, you know, we're going around in circles here, and I really think that at the end of the day, these planning issues are both city and region, and we need to be looking at it, we need to be working together to make sure at the end of the day we have the best results. And certainly disrupting traffic 2 years down the road to change intersections doesn't make any sense to me. So I would encourage you to put a motion on the floor as the area councillor. I'd be happy to second it and support it.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. We don't need a seconder tonight.
I know.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. This is why I didn't support waiving our rules of order at the beginning, which I never do support, never have yet, because we don't even know what the region wants. We don't have the luxury of having anything in front of us from the region. So I'm going to suggest, and it shouldn't delay anything, is that we do what our commissioner has asked, or said he would do, and we refer this straight to council with direction to our commissioner. If you want to repeat what you said you would do, you can go ahead and do it. And then we'll get, hopefully, and ask the region to correspond back to us. So then when it comes to council, we have something from the region, we have something from our staff. I think it'd be premature for us to do anything right now without hearing from the region first. And as a regional councillor, I don't want to later on get back to the region and find out I made a mistake here. So I don't want to delay this. I think it's been delayed. I think Beth's right. It's gone on for a long time. We need to get moving on this. But let's first hear from the region. This is a regional responsibility, and we're being asked to comment on something the region's going to do. I don't know what the cost is. There's work being done. Does that have to be torn out? Does new stuff have to be done? I don't know. Who pays for it? I don't know. So I can't sit here in good conscience and make a decision to direct our staff to do anything, but I will support what the commissioner said he would do, so that we can at least have some correspondence with the region and maybe hopefully get something back from them.
So, Councillor Gibson, I think
That's
I
a
heard.
that's a
I
long way
heard
to
a
say I'm
referral.
referring, ask for referral back.
I heard a referral.
To come
I
back
guess
to
one of-
council, which is only a couple
2
days
days.
away.
It's Wednesday. staff can put their running shoes on. So, speaking to the referral, Councillor Spovieri.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Sorry, thank you. I'm fine with the referral, just as long as we hear back by council. And I think that the region, all they want to know is whether the city's okay with this adjustments. That's from my understanding, my discussion with Beth previously, is that they just want the city to say we're okay with, and I understand about the public meeting, but you know, we've had many public meetings where it's in new areas, and the only people who would comment would be the adjacent landowners of the, but I believe you're working with a block plan, the developers, the other landowners, and they're okay with this realignment, so there should be no complaints from them. So, and the public, there's nobody living there. It's all just farm fields. The farmers are gone, and it's just waiting, the land's waiting to be developed. So I don't think the birds are gonna come out and object to any, or, you know, the wildlife, I should say. Because normally we don't get residents from far away coming to comment on. So I'm okay with the referral, and we'll hear from staff on Wednesday, and I think it's fair. I think we need some reassurance here that we're doing the right thing, and that we're not going to create a bigger problem in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Miles on the referral?
Yeah, I don't mind supporting the referral. I guess what troubles me is the lack of information and the timing on these issues. When I look at what the applicant is requesting, it just makes common sense to me. And I just think that we should be doing everything in our power to facilitate that, so that we do not have that disruption of traffic in the future. So, you know, I know it's frustrating for the applicant, but it's also frustrating for members of council, because I guess it's our expectation that we work together between the city and the region with our applications to ensure the minimal amount of impact on the community as development proceeds. So I'm hoping that I would like to see something in writing from the region on this in regards to it, because if they're moving forward as the schedule is indicating, you know, we need to know something in writing, and I don't know why there hasn't been any formal correspondence between the city and the region on this.
Well, and there may have been, we just don't have it before us tonight. So
Okay, well.
2 days, the recommendations from tonight would go to council on Wednesday in any event.
That would be good.
So it's been moved by Councillor Gibson that the matter be referred to the March 7th meeting of council with a direction to the Commissioner of Planning and Development to, in the meantime, seek clarifications from the Region of Peel and report back thereon. All those in favor? That's carried.
See you Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll now go to 5.1. And Scott, I thought that was going to be the fast one.
I'll be faster.
So, Scott, I know you've asked for an extension of time this evening, moved by Councillor Pelletier. All those in favor? That's carried. And I would ask you if you would bring forward, during this delegation, if you could bring forward 7.1, 13.1, 13.2, 13.3, and 13.6. We're going to deal with most of the agenda while you're before us tonight, Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thanks for taking the time tonight to listen to me. As you know, there is correspondence from me dated January 16, 2018, which is in your package. And I hope also you've received now that this letter that I drafted today to try and summarize my response to the staff report that's before you, trying to find some common ground to move this matter forward. Fundamentally, as you know, my client is the Heritage Heights Landowners Group, and fundamentally what we're asking is to move the secondary plan forward. This plan has got a very long history, which I'll touch on in a minute, but there's a land use plan that was endorsed in principle in 2014, and it's now 2018. And there was a pause required by council in 2015, but 3 years later, we have essentially made no more progress on the secondary plan. And I think that can't be acceptable to anyone, and it certainly isn't acceptable to my clients, many of whom are here today behind me. So I asked for that, and the fundamental proposition of staff in the report before you is that you shouldn't commit to re-engaging yet, because in the eyes of staff anyway, that planning is contingent on factors outside of the city's control. And I'm here to say that we're looking for the common ground. So there's one exception to what I'm about to say, which I think you'll see will bring us together, I hope. But we don't accept that most of those elements need to delay the advancement of the secondary plan. And we certainly don't accept that any of these matters should be viewed as out of the city's control if that implies taking a backseat, passive, wait-and-see approach. Because fundamentally, a wait-and-see approach does not serve any of us. Now, the landowners, and I want to step back, and council surely have a common goal, and that's to see Heritage Heights develop into an exciting and well-planned community consistent with ROPA 24 and OPA 43, which were official plan amendments passed in 2012 that brought this area at broad levels into conformity with the growth plan. So what we see there is that the area is to be planned to accommodate 43,000 people and 20,000 jobs. That's an activity rate of about 47%. But you can't, and my client then took that and worked with the city to move the secondary plan forward, spent over close to $2.5 million doing so in 5 years of time. But as you'll see, you can't advance it further by sitting back, even for issues that are really under the control of others. And I say the city needs to assist to drive those processes as best it can to the city's advantage and not to allow others simply to plan at their own pace. To that end, I will say that my client strongly supports the resolution that was passed at the last General Committee meeting that I was advised of. I wasn't here, of course. But that's the one directing staff to engage with the Ministry of Transportation and the Region of Peel to advance the transportation issues. And that is the one exception to our position that you can just move forward with the secondary plan. We're prepared to work with staff and acknowledge that it's true. The MTO, the new study being advanced by the MTO, the GTA West, or the Northwest GTA Corridor, as it now been named. We have to switch our terminology. And we do need an alignment for the higher order transportation route that, frankly, we have been studying for a long time, and I'll get to that in a second. But we need an alignment for that because that does drive a lot of land use planning. We accept that. And so we support that resolution to move that forward. But there's no need to start from scratch. If I can take you to my letter of January, one of the frustrations of my clients is that sometimes, I think because it happened in some ways so long ago, we can easily forget the work that went into the plan that was endorsed by this council, differently constituted, but this council in 2014. But if you look at page 2 of my letter, which is in your agenda package from January, you'll see the studies that were completed by the city with the funding from my client. There's a long list of them, from the community design and open space study to sub-watershed, transportation, and a transit master plan study, which helped us come up with an alignment that's shown in the plan that was adopted. Infrastructure, shale resource, commercial and institutional studies, cultural and archaeological work, preliminary noise assessment, growth management, alternative development standards, all of those studies were completed and are still there and are still valid studies. Sure, they can be updated to a certain extent. There's been some updates to the growth plan, but fundamentally that work is there to springboard from, even when dealing with the traffic issues and transportation issues, and maybe especially those. So we agree that we can accept, maybe not agree, but accept that we can have some pause to finalize those traffic issues, or at least far enough so we have some preliminary alignments and some understanding of what the province wants to do. But once that is completed, I'm here to urge this council to recognize, or this committee to recognize, that we can move forward with the secondary plan at that point. The other issues identified by staff, and I hope ultimately staff can agree with this, do not need to be resolved in advance of the secondary plan proceeding. So some of the issues, you know, is that there's a potential new hospital, a proposed GO layover facility. Use the secondary plan process to identify locations for those facilities. Use the secondary plan process to ensure that where they're located meets your needs and meets the community's needs. That's what a secondary plan process is good at doing. In terms of the shale policy review, I have to say I can't imagine there's anyone in this council that thinks it's a good idea to have a quarry in Heritage Heights. So we should be using the secondary plan to inform the shale policy review, not the other way around. And finally, in terms of the quantum of employment lands, which is the other issue, employment lands allocation and quantum are determined through secondary plans routinely. So those issues, not a chance should this secondary plan be delayed for. Let's advance them and refine them as part of the secondary plan process. So I guess what I'm here to urge the committee, in less than 15 minutes, I'm hoping, because I'm almost done, is to recognize that there's an opportunity to be seized here and that we can no longer wait for others to do their work, but insist where we have to that it be done quickly and otherwise advance planning in our own city. So, what is my request? You may be wondering after all this, because I sound like I'm accepting part of staff's position, and I guess in a way I am. But I'm here to say two things. We agree fully to be actively engaged in what's going on with the MTO and the region to make sure those traffic issues are dealt with as fast as possible. That's number one. And secondly, to ensure that once that's known sufficiently, it doesn't have to be finished, but some sense of alignments and the elements, once that's done, to be ready to go, to finally move the secondary plan forward and not await any of these other issues, but move it forward at that point. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. 8 minutes and 15 seconds.
Not bad.
Well done. I do want to give staff an opportunity to respond, so I guess I'll put it in the form of a question that I wrote on my agenda. Once the road issue is better understood, can the other issues be advanced and addressed through the secondary plan process? And I think that's what you were asking
Absolutely.
tonight, Scott.
So through to you, Madam Chair, that was the impetus for us coming forward last week with the recommendation that we have, that staff proceed with the road study and the needs assessment in conjunction with the region. There's some tactical things we have to work out about, you know, what are our obligations under the HP BAT study that was done and who do we partner with and things like that. But that we will deal with. But the key message was that we need to understand how to move people and goods in this area. So driving that from our end is why we brought that recommendation forward last week. So we're looking forward to moving ahead with that. And I think it's fair to say that some of the work that's been done would be the toehold into that. I'm not going to suggest that we throw it all away, whatever's relevant. But as we all know, the world is changing around us as well. You know, part of this pause from the province was around the movement of goods and people is different, and we have to understand that. And we have to have that, you know, drive our roads needs study. In speaking with the province today, actually, we understood is that they would be willing to accept our work to drive their decisions in the future. So I'm pleased to hear that. How this relates to some of the other issues that we've identified in the past, things like the hospital and other things that we've identified as concerns, I think that we could find a way to work through those as we progress through this particular key issue, which is the transportation of the neighborhood. So I think suffice it to say that there's some roadblocks ahead, but I don't think there's a reason to bring this to a complete standstill, and there are ways to take a step forward, and we're willing to do that.
Okay. Councillor, it's audio taped and videotaped. Councillor
Thanks.
Sprovieri.
Scott, we're always trying to solve problems, and this has been a long one.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, not because of our doing, of course. Just a question, and it's good to hear that staff said that the province is willing to go along with whatever Brampton decides in protecting a corridor. Is that what I heard?
I'm not sure those were his exact words.
That's a great headline.
But if I remember, if my memory serves me right, there was some controversies. There was a couple of different options through this where different alignments that they were being looked at through the EA process, and I don't believe that's ever been resolved. Now, do you think there's a possibility that that issue couldn't be resolved between the landowners and our staff to see which one of those options would be ideal? And I see the gentleman from the cemetery up in the statue.
It's your next delegation this evening.
Oh, okay, you're going to be speaking to. So, is there a possibility of refining that issue and then trying to protect the corridor, and then so we can say to the province, this is it, guys, you know, this is where you're gonna, if there's gonna be a highway, this is where it's gonna go, and because we're moving ahead, and like you want us to.
Thank you. Yes, the answer to that question is, in fact, through the Heritage Heights Transportation Master Plan, a number of options were examined, and a choice or preferred option was identified, which is reflected in the plan you adopted in 2014. So that general alignment is there. And so, and not everybody, sure, there was not everybody loved it, but it was the alignment that seemed to be the best alignment at the time. And we certainly hope that the city will advance that in its discussions with the MTO about what's going on with their corridor, and also with the region in terms of finalizing the location of what will be needed, which is a higher order road, even if it's not a highway, a higher order road that runs in that general alignment. So absolutely, it can be resolved through that process and should be resolved.
Good. So our staff will get working on that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just ask, I don't have a question of the delegation, but thank you for coming, Scott. Just to staff, if we could have some sort of status update on the roads analysis in a 3-month kind of window, just a status update.
Through the chair, as we proceed through that roads assessment, that's certainly a fair request for us to keep you informed on how things are going, and there could be an opportunity to report back on more than just the roads. So
Excellent.
we will keep council informed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would someone like to move receipt of the delegation? Councillor Palashi, all in favor? And I think I neglected to ask for a motion to receive the previous delegation. It was included in the referral? Okay, great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Mike Everard, from the principal of the Augusta National Incorporated. Welcome this evening, again.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Mike Everard, planning consultant for Catholic Cemeteries, Archdiocese of Toronto. I thought we had an overhead projector here because I wanted to locate for you the Guardian Angel Cemetery with respect to the GTA West Corridor. You don't have any facilities? Okay, so with your approval.
No, the clerk's office wasn't aware, they would have made it.
Right, I assumed you had a projector. So with your approval, I'm going to hand this to the counselor on my right-hand side and ask you just to circulate it around.
Okay.
And you will see that where we are located at the northeast corner of Heritage and Wanless, outside, beyond, to the east of the northwest corridor. All right, thank you. While that is being passed around, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Catholic Cemeteries is a registered nonprofit charity serving the essential bereavement needs of Brampton's Roman Catholic population. The Roman Catholic population in the city of Brampton is the single largest religious denomination, comprising approximately 30% of the general population. We currently have 13 parishes, generating approximately 1 funeral per day out of the city. There's no Roman Catholic cemetery in the city of Brampton. When we purchased this property in 90 acres in 1999, We did not speculate with these lands, these careful resources that we have through the charity. We purchased these lands based upon the existing zoning. These lands, I want to underline this very clearly, these lands are currently zoned to permit a cemetery. They are zoned as of right. There is no zoning bylaw required for site plan approval. There is no official plan amendment required for site plan approval. There is no statutory public meeting required for this site plan approval. We are ambivalent with respect to the land uses that will be generated from the secondary study on the adjoining properties. They could be residential, service commercial, or employment. We are ambivalent, but obviously for privacy reasons, we would prefer residential. But as I say, we are not part of the secondary study, so therefore we are ambivalent as to what is finally approved, but we have our preferences. My friend spoke about previously about all of the studies that were conducted as prerequisites to the approval of the secondary study. We have long before the landowners started their process, we engaged Credit Valley Conservation Authority, Ministry of Natural Resources, and the City of Brampton on a myriad of site visits with respect to our submission, our site plan that is with the city. These site plans for cemeteries are very, very simplistic. Typically, municipalities have no comments with respect to these whatsoever. It's just a matter of locating private roads and the location of graves. There is one study that the landowners have done which may possibly benefit the site plan approval process. And that is some of the environmental work in the Heritage Heights Subwatershed Study. We have made written submission and verbal submission to the city that we are amenable to paying our prorated share for any and all of those environmental studies that the CVCA or the city may require to update our current submissions to the CVCA and the city. There might be some, I probably think there will be, and we will pay our prorated share with respect to that. With respect to all of the other studies that my friend was talking about earlier, they have no bearing with respect to this simple site plan, none whatsoever. For example, a master servicing and financing scheme, not required. We have a drilled well, we have a septic tank. With respect to the massive transportation, traffic input study that is forthcoming, not applicable whatsoever. We will generate approximately 10 additional vehicles per day on the local roads. Those 10 vehicles will not even occur between the two peak hours, peak periods. 7 to 9 in the morning, no. 5 to 7 at night, not at all. We conduct the funerals at off-peak hours. 10 additional cars, that's all, no impact. We are not part of the secondary study, nor can any planning rationale be made forward that would include the secondary study as a prerequisite to our site plan approval. Madam Chair, the provincial policy statement of 2014, Places to Grow 2017, the Peel Region Brampton official plans all speak about policies of whole, complete, and sustainable communities. Every day, at the greatest expense of your taxpayers, 30% of your taxpayers, we have funerals leaving this city and going to the City of Mississauga, City of Brampton, and the City of Vaughan every single day at great expense and inconvenience, especially at times of bereavement. This is unacceptable. On behalf of the 30% of the city, we implore the City Council to be our advocates. We beseech City Council to act on the following. With respect to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs letter you have before you, we ask you to direct staff to immediately send our site plan application, SP 13109, to Ministry of Municipal Affairs and MTO forthwith for provincial review. We are outside of the corridor. There is no secondary studies required for us to proceed. City confirms, secondly, we'd like the city to confirm that the site plan approval is not contingent upon the secondary study approval for advancement of the site plan. Thank you very much for your time. I wait any of your comments.
Thank you. Councillor Palashi?
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions of the delegation, and I'm happy to move. But I do have a question for staff.
All those in favor of proceed with the delegation? That's carried. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
Just to staff, a question has come up with respect to the cemetery. Are all the areas in Heritage Heights currently zoned agricultural?
Through Madam Chairman, the majority of them are, and they do permit cemeteries as of right, but they are also subject to the intercontrol bylaw, which has been in force since 2003, appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board, which essentially freezes all development rights.
Which does freeze all
Yes.
development rights. Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I guess I'm not sure where to go from here. We've received the delegation. That's it. Oh, yeah, no, we've moved to the staff reports. And the receipt of the items of correspondence. Okay, so item 7.1 is before us this evening. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Someone like to move it? Councillor Willens? Seeing no questions, all those in favor? That's carried. And as the items of correspondence, we'll deal with those. They relate to this item as well, 13.1, 13.2, 13.3, and 13.6. Someone like to move those? Councillor Dillon, all in favor? That's carried. We'll move now, all of the minutes for the subcommittees are in consent, as is, no, we've moved down to 9.1. It's a report from Nelson Cadet Project Manager on the Ontario Municipal Commuter Cycling Program Transfer Payment Agreement. The province wants to give us some money. 1.7 million. Moved by Councillor Gibson. All those in favor? That's carried. There are 2 items on the referred matters list. Are there any questions on that? Seeing none, Councillor Fortini, you'd like to move that? All those in favor? That's carried. We'll move to 13.4 and 5. They are here for receipt. Someone like to move them? Councillor Spolieri, all those in favor? That's carried. Are there any questions from members of council? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public this evening on the matter that we dealt with on the agenda tonight? Seeing none. And just before we adjourn, I'm going to ask the commissioner if he would make an introduction tonight. Now, I know I made a mistake the last time. There's somebody here but there is an introduction this evening, so I'll turn it over to Commissioner Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would like to take an opportunity to introduce the newest staff member into our department. Jim Doran, who's sitting behind me here, is joining us as our Director of Strategic Planning Developments. And Jim's team is going to work on some of the key projects that are of interest to the city, including some of our downtown initiatives around the university, Powerade, help us find a location for a 3rd hospital. So a number of these very strategic type initiatives, and we're happy to have Jim on board. He comes to us after a very long tenure with the city of Mississauga. And he's been very instrumental with introducing Sheridan College to their downtown and a couple other very strategic projects that helped them to the success they've had to date.
Oh,
So thank you very much.
Grant. Do you have your inaugural speech ready? No, not tonight. Okay. Sorry?
Correct, my oversight, and Jim lives in our downtown and has for over 20 years. So is a local resident and has lots of insights to offer.
Very good. Those 3 words we like to hear most. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Bowman. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff.